Invest 95L is better organized and at least 2 other potential tropical development areas for the week ahead. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We are your home for Caribbean weather. It's nice to see you for the latest video. I hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, all the new information on Invest 95L, that's the area in red. We'll look at what's been happening today, the latest on the models and the potential impacts for some of our area. We have at least one more, but more than likely 2 areas that we'll have to monitor for the week ahead for other potential development, and it has been another active, wet, and stormy day. Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. Storm season is here. You get damage of any kind, they'll walk you through the insurance claim process. Go to leanomelaw.com for more information. As always, love to hear from the fantastic weather community. Drop it in the old comment section below and let me know what's been happening in your area, what the weather has been like. You have a question as we move through the video, feel free to drop it down there as well. Invest 95L, better organized today, right? We still don't have a true low-level center of circulation, at least defined from what we can see, although the mid-levels of that storm do look to be much more impressive for today. This is what it looks like on the visible satellite imagery for us here. And again, just a nice, clear, defined storm. Of course, we lose the visible satellite imagery as we lose the daylight hours, so I'll just pause this and kind of rock it back and forth. Good outflow, mid-level part of the storm looks better, and it's likely to consolidate and have a low-level center soon. It's not going to shock me in the next 24 hours if we get a tropical depression or even a tropical storm. Jerry is the next named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. But again, we have yet to get more than an invest. So unfortunately, I told you this time yesterday that we would start to get more clarity in what could ultimately be happening with 95L/Jerry when we get a true low-level center. That's when the precision of the models, especially with track, start to come into play. Intensity, again, they're still struggling a little bit with how quickly these storms can develop. But since we don't have a low-level center yet, there is still a tremendous spread in the outputs of the models from track to intensity. We could have a system on the models that doesn't even develop, or one that could be a major hurricane in the Leeward Islands late Thursday or early on Friday. That is still the spread we're having to deal with as of today. So I wish there was more clarity to be talking about what exactly is going to be happening with this. But friends, we're certainly still in watch and wait mode at this point in time. Now, because we've been a full 24 hours now with an invest, all of the tropical models are running, and we have all of those spaghetti plots. One thing I will note is when you look at these spaghetti plots, and even the Hurricane Center's kind of potential development area, which can always be looked at as a first blush track, if you will, there has been a little bit of a shift north and east. This is exactly a la Aaron and others in the main development region of the Atlantic Basin this year, how quickly they want to turn north around the southwest side of our subtropical ridge. Obviously, that recurve is exactly what we want to see, and the models are showing some of that. But, you know, there is still other models I'm going to show you that drive a hurricane into the island. So while this is fantastic to see, there is no reason to label this anything right now, a fish storm or an area that's definitely going to be impacting. We have to see how this plays out in the next couple of days. But because we're only talking about 3 and 4 days out from now, you have to be very vigilant in the Eastern Caribbean with this developing system and how it could ultimately play out. Let's talk about where it is right now. I'm going to bring on our handy dandy spatial tool from the Leeward Islands itself to the center of circulation. I'm going to pop this up like this so you can see it. We're still more than 1,600 miles away, so we still have some time, but it's a very low latitude storm. Remember, the latitude now is basically parallel with Trinidad. That's how far south in the MDR it is. So it's really going to have to gain latitude very quickly if it's going to recurve before it moves east of the islands. It's much lower in latitude than, say, what Aaron was. But again, it's really all about how quickly the southwest side of that ridge wants to pick up the storm. And it is nice to see that you have several members here of the spaghetti plots, the tropical models, that are taking the core of that storm north and east of places like Antigua and Barbuda and Anguilla. But the western periphery of where the Hurricane Center has its development area and the western side of the models that we have do show either a very close brush or direct impacts. So let's get into what's happening with the models for today. A lot to show you with that. We'll start off with the GFS model, plenty of different models to show you guys here. So I'm going to kick it up. We'll begin with reflectivity. Now look, we're going to talk about 95L first, right? But there's two other areas that I want to get into, and including the one just off of the coast of Belize and Central America, which is bringing some heavy rainfall there. But let's dive into this. The GFS model has been much more aggressive in the last 48 hours with 95L compared to the European model. That is still the case for today. What's the difference? The GFS model is farther north and east compared to 24 hours ago. It's a hurricane on the GFS model as we get into Friday morning, and it is a very, very close, brush to Antigua and Barbuda and Anguilla and St. Martin and St. Bart's, Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, Guadeloupe. You would have on the GFS model a hurricane no more than 100 miles just off to your east. If we take a look and draw a line here from Barbuda, probably the outer bands about 85 miles away and the core about 150. So again, it's a shift north and east some, but is that a trend? Is that kind of the windshield wiper effect where things start to turn back to the west eventually? We'll have to wait and see. Again, before we have that true low-level center and the models can pick up on that exact latitude and longitude, you're going to see a lot of different, solutions, especially with track with the model. But the GFS is still strong, bringing a hurricane. But it is great news to see that it's slightly north and east of the islands within kind of a due north push, which would pull it away from the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. And yes, one more time down the road, if that were to end up playing out, Bermuda would be another area that we'd have to monitor for potential developments. If I haven't mentioned it as of yet, Jerry is the next named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. This is what it looks like on the surface-based winds. I'm going to take off that red area so it's just a little bit easier for you guys to see. So it's the same situation as yesterday. Likely we're to consolidate this center as we get into our Tuesday, and this is Tuesday afternoon, and we clearly have ourselves a tropical storm. So again, it's not going to surprise me in the next 24 hours. We get ourselves at least a depression, if not even Jerry. Again, there's still spread in the models, but the majority of them do develop this into a named storm. Then it's more about the intensity and the track from there. So as we get into Thursday morning, again, you can see the closest approach here would be late Thursday evening and into early on Friday, and then the storm pulling up to the north. Again, ultimately, this would be more of a brush than a direct impact on the GFS model, but there are other models I'm going to show you that have much more of a direct impact, especially to the Leeward Islands. In a general sense, the farther north that you live in the Lesser Antilles, the higher likelihood there is for potential direct impacts. We're obviously going to include the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and if it's a farther west track, even portions of Hispaniola, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti could be into play for this as well. Showing you guys what the wind field looks like on this. So if we go back to here, and I just query this, you're going to see a storm that is pushing hurricane force. It's close. If I go back here, right here, you've got hurricane force winds. So it really is just kind of dependent on the GFS, but it's definitely into a Category 1 hurricane as it gets closer to the Leeward Islands. And again, these are sustained winds at the surface. This is the HAFS A model, all right? Center of the circulation here. We'll watch it developing Wednesday, Thursday, nice slow loop on this. But unfortunately with the HAFS A, just like yesterday, it brings it directly into the Leeward Islands. So we've got Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, the Montserrat area. And right here, I'm going to take myself off camera just quickly. That's a 104 mile per hour hurricane. So you've got a Category 2 sustained winds at the surface Friday morning, the wee hours of Friday. So conditions going downhill Thursday into Friday on the HAFS A. Again, no guarantee this plays out, but I'm going to show you the different spreads in the model. So we've had the GFS as a Category 1 north and east of the islands. The HAFS A still has a direct impact into the Leeward Islands late Thursday and into Friday as a Cat 2 hurricane. This is the reflectivity, same time frame, early Friday morning, just to kind of give you an idea. Again, this is the model, what it would look like composite reflectivity wise, with a center of circulation in the Leeward Islands and just extremely heavy rain, but getting some outer bands as far west as Puerto Rico and Vieques and Culebra and the Virgin Islands. Again, this is just one solution. If we look at the HAFS B model, snapshot, same time frame, slightly farther north, but not much on the B version of the HAFS. Okay, so Barbuda, we're getting a little bit closer to places like St. Bart, St. Martin, and Anguilla here. You can see the winds. Off camera again, bottom right-hand side of your screen, high-end tropical storm. Winds of around 70 miles an hour, teetering on Category 1. So closer to the GFS in intensity with Jerry, rather than having a stronger hurricane moving through. But still, both halves, A and B, direct impacts to the Leeward Islands. HMON model, another, again, high-resolution tropical model. This is a strong storm on the HMON model, right? So the biggest question is, where does it go? With the HMON, it actually weakens a little bit as it gets closer to the islands. The reason why is there could be a pocket of shear just east into the western Atlantic, which could help to break apart the storm a little bit. Some of the models like the HMON are picking it up, others aren't. But we still, unfortunately, have direct impacts on the HMON model Friday morning. As far as intensity goes, it's still a 93 mile an hour storm. So again, right around the edge of Cat 1 to low end Cat 2 on the HMON model, but it was even stronger as we moved into Thursday, but it weakened a bit. So we'll see how that plays out. But now you've got both half A, half B and the HMON with direct impacts into the Leeward Islands beginning later Thursday and especially through early Friday morning. Here's the HWRF model, all right? This is an even stronger storm on the HWRF model. This actually becomes a major hurricane on the HWRF's model. So again, intensity is a question, but I mentioned this in yesterday's video, right? A stronger storm is more likely, not guaranteed, to get tugged north quicker. So what do we have on the HWRF model? We've got a major hurricane, but we've actually missed direct impacts to the Leeward Islands, to the Virgin Islands, to Puerto Rico. 140 mile an hour sustained Category 4 hurricane off the HWRF model. This is early on Saturday. I took it out a little bit farther because I wanted you to see how strong it would go, but also the fact that the HWRF model does turn it north and east before it gets into the Eastern Caribbean, right? It really stinks to say, in some ways, we might want a stronger storm because we might get a recurve north before it gets into the Eastern Caribbean, right? A weaker storm might have a better opportunity to bring more direct impacts. Now, that's not a guarantee on either side, but the models are indicating that stronger storm, recurve north and east, a little bit quicker around the periphery of the subtropical ridge, because the more vertically stacked storm, as a stronger hurricane would, gets more influenced by the deeper layer of the subtropical ridge trying to pull it north with the southerly winds. Okay? Now, let's flip it around. Just like yesterday, the European model has hardly anything developing. There's a little weak center right there. That's the spread I'm talking about. You've got the HMON or the HWRF with a major hurricane, and you have the European ensembles and the deterministic with very little out there. We're still dealing with that kind of spread, my friends. Again, I wish there was a little bit more clarity. This happens frequently when we're talking about a storm that hasn't become a depression or a storm and doesn't have a true low-level center as of yet. All possibilities are still on the table. When we look at the GFS tracks, this is certainly better than yesterday, right? The cluster of tracks are north and east. If you look at your black line with the squares, that is the mean or the average. It is north and east of the islands. What's interesting on the GFS is that actually some of the strongest storms, and you would look at the pressure here, the lower the number, the stronger the storm, and that's indicative of the color of the line that you see. Some of the stronger ones are the ones that are on the southwest side that move through the Leeward Islands towards the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. But the vast majority of the GFS is farther north and east. Now, whatever ensembles want to develop 95L on the European model have more direct impacts. It's just that most of them don't. But the ones that do are closer to the islands here, and even as far south as like Guadeloupe. Sure, there are still some recurves, but we have a much closer brush and or direct impacts to the northern half of the Leeward Islands, potentially the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, with again what is likely to become Jerry. Again, there's so much as far as spread goes. That's the situation that we're dealing with. It's as simple as that. Now, you got, again, your halves B, Cat 5 eventually, halves A, Cat 4 with the HWRF Cat 4, and I showed you that, right? The 140. You have a few in that Cat 3, but it is good to see that more of our tropical models have come in a little bit weaker and keeping it a tropical storm. Almost all of them develop this into Jerry, right? It's just how quickly it could develop. And, right, some of them are picking up on that shear. Do you guys notice that some of these plot points go down as we get towards the end of the weekend, like 72 hours, 3 days from now, so Thursday, Friday timeframe? You see that some of these drop? That's the shear that I was showing you that could be present just east of the islands that might try and have an impact on the storm. I haven't changed this graphic from yesterday, and it's as simple as that. Still high uncertainty with the track and the strength. Interest in these areas should continue to monitor. We're still in watch and wait mode. I always tell you guys to check in with your local government and your local officials for local messaging for what you guys need to do. I pass on official messaging, of course, but in a broad sense, we're watching, we're waiting, especially in these areas. All of the Lesser Antilles, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and down the road, potentially the Dominican Republic and Haiti. That's the lowest chance out of these island areas, but it's one that still has to watch this very closely indeed. And again, this is likely to become Jerry, and that could happen sometime on Tuesday. The interesting thing is, there's a possibility we get Karen later this week as well, but it may not be from the area that you guys think. As we get into that, as always, if you want to follow the tropical updates, you want the daily forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, you found your home, please hit that subscribe button for me right now. You want to do a simple payback, hit the like button as well. It helps the channel out more than you guys think. Thank you for sharing this channel with your family and friends, and appreciate all those who are members of the channel and those who support via the super thanks and other ways in the description of the video below as well. So now we're going to talk about the other areas that I'm going to be monitoring, and we obviously have to start with the one that the Hurricane Center is highlighting, and that's in the Northwest Caribbean, which has brought a ton of rain to portions of Quintana Roo and Belize for today. Now look, there's just a 10% chance, and this is not the first time this year that we have had an area highlighted in the next in the Northwest Caribbean, forecast to move over the Yucatan and potentially develop into the southwest side of the Gulf. We got Barry out of that very early this year, but regardless, it's a big rainmaker for the Yucatan and the northern sides of Central America for the coming days. So Cancun, Cozumel, Merida, the beach areas across the Yucatan. I wish it was a better forecast for any beachgoers, for anyone who is vacationing, but it's unfortunately going to be a fairly wet, stormy forecast. Merida has had a 30-mile-an-hour wind gust. Cancun has had a 30-mile-an-hour wind gust. Again, it's not just rain. There's plenty of lightning associated with this activity as well. There's a lot of instability and lift in the atmosphere and that rich, deep pool of tropical moisture. So we're in store for some wet weather. I mentioned it in yesterday's video. Thought, look, we could get enough rain where Belize would issue an excessive rainfall watch, and that's exactly what they've done. Several inches of rain, 2 to 4 inches of rain daily, likely to fall over portions of Belize, so please be very cautious, especially in some flood-prone areas. And it's really not just Belize, but, you know, most of Quintana Roo, coastal sides of Guatemala, the northern sides of Honduras, Utila, Roatan, Guanaja here, the Bay Islands of Honduras. Again, just wet, stormy conditions for a few days ahead, at least through late Tuesday, if not even early on Wednesday. I'll show you the visible satellite imagery. Again, there is a bit of a spin here, mainly more at mid-levels than at low levels, but slightly better environmental conditions in the Southwest Gulf, and we could get a small storm here. It's still just a 10% chance. This could be Karen, but there might be another area that could possibly be Karen as well. But my friends, in this area, the appreciable impacts is going to be a lot of rain, some gusty winds, and some potential flooding. If you guys have already seen some of that, please, as always, let me know in the comment section below. You can always send me a picture or video to mymediamundo@gmail.com. But the interesting thing about it is, it's actually right here that I'm going to be watching towards the end of the week and the weekend for our next either tropical or extratropical low, right? Subtropical low, which does get a name. It's not this. That's the system that's been sitting over the eastern side of the Bahamas for the last couple of days. It's still bringing near tropical depression conditions to the east coast of Florida. Very heavy rain, flooding conditions along the coast, flash flood warnings from time to time, and some extensive rain and some wind and surf and sea conditions for the Bahamas as well. But it's not that area. Let me go back over to the model here and loop this back up for you guys. This time I'm going to have to pull it out to Sunday and show you this. Take my quick drink of water here too. So the Hurricane Center hasn't even highlighted this yet, but I've been watching this area the last couple of days on the model. Guess what happens? This time of the year, you get cold fronts that can move off the United States East Coast and they stall out. And from time to time, you can get areas of low pressure that can develop along that. And that's exactly what the GFS model is beginning to pick up on. There is a spin right here off of the Florida, Georgia, Carolina coastline, somewhere diffuse like that, kind of moving up to the north and to the east. So once this boundary stalls Thursday, Friday, over the weekend, there is a possibility for a mid or low level center to develop. It may not be truly warm cored, so we may not have a true tropical system. It could be a hybrid system, but again, those get names. Subtropical storms get names. And in my opinion, based on what I've seen for the week ahead, it's more likely this becomes Karen than this. Or we end up getting 3 named storms, or neither of them develop, and we just get Jerry, which is Invest 95L. So again, if I loop this up here, yeah, a ton of rain, but there's a very narrow window of opportunity for this to develop here. And the GFS model doesn't have that happening. The European model doesn't have it as well. Let me show you the European model with this, right? Euro-deterministic. We get ourselves a low-level center Sunday into Monday, which actually drives back into the Georgia, South Carolina coast. So on the European model deterministic, east coast of Florida, north and east of the Bahamas, we do get a storm. Could be developing very close to the Carolina coastline, by the way. So you want to talk about kicking up the surf and sea conditions again and just very heavy rain, and then it pushes it back inland as we get into Sunday and Monday. Now, the AI version of the European model, the deterministic, actually rides it up the East Coast all the way towards New England and Cape Cod. So this would be a much more expansive storm as far as impacts up and down the United States East Coast with massive swells, high surf and sea conditions, and copious amounts of rain, but both have true low-level centers with this. So again, we'll watch this storm potentially developing for this weekend, which could become Karen. So the bottom line is, my friends, we've got ourselves a very active forecast here with these potentials. It's not going to shock me if in the next day or two, if the models consistently show something developing here, that the Hurricane Center will highlight this spot. Might be a little bit too early for them right now, but I've just seen enough in the models to at least point it out to you guys for sure. Let's talk about what's been happening in our area for today. Storms have been very prolific again with this broad mid-level spin just east of the Bahamas. So it's been a wet, stormy afternoon in some spots, and obviously some of these areas of the Bahamas are ones that have been directly impacted by Imelda, so we don't need any more heavy rain. But guess what we've gotten? We've gotten more heavy showers and storms in some locations like New Providence. Look at the rain and storms over the Andros area. We've had some scattered rain near Eleuthera for today, spotty showers and storms for the Abacos, really healthy thunderstorms over Bimini, some passing showers over Freeport, Lucaya there in Grand Bahama, a massively wet, stormy day in the east side of Florida. Again, their winds have been 25, 30 plus miles an hour since Friday. Appreciably, the east coast of Florida has had tropical depression or weak tropical storm conditions in their area since Friday, just persistent. All those numbers are wind gusts in miles an hour. The entire peninsula of Florida is basically seeing 20 to 30 mile an hour wind gusts and even locally higher from time to time. Go back over here, drop off this data and continue on. Still expecting some spotty showers for the southeast sides of the Bahamas. A little bit drier for Turks and Caicos at the hour. Thunderstorms are likely to redevelop in the afternoon hours across Cuba. Some of the extent of the northern side of this is going to sneak back towards Havana and the western tip of Cuba. A few showers are likely to develop over the Cayman Islands, again on the eastern periphery of that slug of tropical moisture. But beginning tomorrow, for my friends in places like the Cayman Islands and Jamaica, it's likely that we might dry out a bit because all that moisture is getting tugged off to the west. So we're going to stay exceptionally wet through all of Central America with, again, the potential for some flooding rains here, but we might dry out a touch just east, so Jamaica included in that. But thunderstorms are breaking out once again, very prolifically. This time with a little bit more of a north to south wind. The thunderstorms have been more concentrated in the southern parishes for today, so St. Thomas and Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth parishes. You've had the best thunderstorms for today. If you've caught some of this heavier rain, let me know in the comments section below. Look at that lightning count go nice and high here on this late Monday afternoon. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are over portions of Hispaniola as well. And again, The movement has been kind of slow from north to south for today. You can see that on the infrared satellite imagery. Clusters of very heavy rain. We could have some flooding rains from time to time. Look at all of the lightning just north of places like Barahona and Azua and Bani, Santo Domingo included as well. Tons of lightning associated with this, a lot of lift in the atmosphere, still all kinds of surf and sea condition issues. It's too numerous to name, but there are so many marine advisories across the Caribbean right now. Just check in. If you're a boater, you probably know what I'm talking about. There's more areas than not under high surf advisories or some kind of small craft advisories today. Showers and storms are breaking out across Puerto Rico at the hour. We'll see a couple of showers and storms over the Virgin Islands as well. Again, they're scattered in nature, but some isolated heavier downpours come along for the ride on this Monday. Scattered showers have been developing across the Leeward Islands as well. And again, same areas I've already mentioned during our 95L coverage here earlier, but a couple of thunderstorms towards St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua. We'll fall that farther to the south, and it's really beginning to line up across the islands here late today. So the best coverage of storms on this Monday so far right now, Dominica, Martinique, a couple of scattered showers over St. Lucia, really rough marine conditions on the western side of Barbados, and it is drier right now, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad, Tobago, Nueva Esparta, but those areas could run under a couple of showers and storms late today as well. And again, an isolated spotty shower possible for the ABC Islands, but at this point in time, many dry hours and locations. Now, if you guys don't know, and if you're new to the channel, we got live cameras across the Caribbean to tell your weather story. Let's take a look at some of those. This is a live look to Central Eleuthera in the Bahamas, Governor's Harbor area there, looking off towards the west, and you can see some of the showers that have moved through the area. Another fairly wet day. Again, not as concentrated, but there have been pockets of very heavy rainfall there. Current St. Lucia, we're looking south and to the west, and again, we're looking away from all the showers and storms, so more blue on this. If we were to turn the camera north, you would see darker skies at this point in time, and it's just another beautiful, breezy, but sun-swept afternoon here, the Eagle Beach area of Oranjestad and Aruba. And again, just another picture-perfect but dry afternoon for our friends there. So let's talk about what's going to be happening over the next couple of days for you guys. You just kind of look at the local potential for showers and storms. So let me bring that up for you guys real quick. Switch back over here. All right, so let's loop this up. Oh, actually, probably easiest if I do that. I'm going to drop off that red area just so it's, again, easier for you guys to see. Now, I mentioned it in yesterday's video, right? In the short term, there is another disturbance that's sitting just off of the Leeward Islands. Just a broad, disturbed tropical area, right? But not that's going to organize. However, ahead of Invest 95L, as we get into late Tuesday and Wednesday, it is likely to bring another big slug of tropical moisture before whatever 95L becomes, Jerry or not. So look at the rain that could be developing across the Lesser Antilles Wednesday morning. Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, Grenada, down towards TNT as well. Healthy high rain totals are a possibility as that disturbance moves into the Eastern Caribbean. And again, on the heels of that, whatever 95L/Jerry is going to become, we'll have to monitor the situation. But even before we get that system moving in, you could get some very heavy rain late Tuesday and into Wednesday. Might be a little bit more spotty in the Leeward Islands, but considering that it's an area that could have more direct impacts from Jerry, we'll have to, hope that we don't get too much rain in these spots. Same situation for our friends in the Virgin Islands over the next couple days in Puerto Rico. Obviously, when it's not been raining, it's been exceptionally hot. I get that, but we have to kind of weigh both sides. We don't want too much rain, especially with tropical disturbances coming closer to our area, but we don't want to have to be stifling heat-wise as well. Scattered showers are likely to continue even if Jerry doesn't get anywhere near Haiti and the Dominican Republic. We still have our broad mid-level circulation. It's going to finally dissipate, but you can still see a fairly wet forecast over the Bahamas the next several days, right? Still more concentrated central and northern Bahamas, but southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos get into the action as well. Numerous showers and storms over Cuba. As I've mentioned, slightly drier is expected over Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, and a very wet forecast overall as our broad low tracks over the Yucatan, gets into the southwest Gulf. It's still going to be very active in the Pacific as well. They've had numerous storms develop developing off the west coast of Mexico lately, and the monsoon trough is still quite active. So this is just a wet, sloppy forecast, regardless on if we get a system to try and wrap up here in the Southwest Gulf for the coming days. When we look at the wave heights and directions, obviously we continue to just have massive problems boating-wise as the swells continue. Again, the Western Atlantic is just churned up. Anything that 95L/Jerry brings our way is just going to heighten that and just extend the poor boating conditions with the high surf and sea conditions, the rip current risks, the eastern side of the Bahamas, the exposed Atlantic waters, Turks and Caicos, the northern sides of Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and the northern and the western coastlines of some of the Lesser Antilles as well. And you can see from the model here, 10, 12, 14, maybe even up to 20-foot wave heights possible with this storm, and it will be dependent on how strong it ultimately gets. Friends, you know I'm going to keep you updated. You can follow us across all of our social media platforms. We are indeed on Instagram, which is easy for me to say, TikTok, we're on X, we're on Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video to help tell the weather story in your area, the easiest way to do it is myMediaMundo@gmail.com. As always, you have a question about the forecast, let me know in the comments section below. While you're down there, thank you so much for liking and subscribing. And please remember that Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the leading law firm of Central Florida. Wind, hail, hurricane damage, even a burst pipe, anything that impacts your property, they'll walk you through the insurance claim process. They offer free consultation and policy reviews. You got nothing to lose. It's leanonmelaw.com for more information. Friends, I'll be monitoring 95L/Jerry very closely and other potential areas of development in the area as well. I'm back tomorrow with your latest forecast. Until then, friends, you take care. I'll see you soon right here at Meteo Mundo.